Let me give you just a very brief introduction about our guest today. Pauline Masnot is the founder and CEO of Windrose, which is a French company focused on international distribution of documentaries, performances, fiction series, and kids' titles. She holds degrees in political science, music, international cultural management, and business administration. And she has more than 15 years of experience in international distribution. So today, Pauline will give us a very short, because we don't have too much time, but in-depth overview of the animation sector in France. And I just give her the floor, and feel free of asking anything. If you have any questions, any doubts, I will read them and see if it's something that it's a sort of clarification of a sentence or a specific part of Pauline's speech. I'm free. Pauline told me that it's okay if I interrupt her, but if it's a general question or something that can be postponed at the end of the talk, we will keep them for later, because we have 10 minutes of answer and questions for later. Okay, thank you, Pauline. The floor is yours. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. Grazie mille first to CNA Emilia-Romagna for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to share knowledge and experience with Italian producers and maybe other talents. Yeah, so maybe a short introduction of myself. So Windrose is the name of the company. My first name is Pauline, last name Mazenot. Windrose is a French-based company. Personally, I live in Bavaria, in Germany, so I'm a very international person. Windrose is an independent international distribution company. Some companies like mine belong to big groups. So in our business, there are like big, let's say big companies and small ones, and the small ones are independent. As Mariana said, I work on different kinds of programs. Today, we're going to speak only about animation. Personally, my catalog is a kind of public broadcasters catalog. It is made of, composed of entertaining films, which are also meaningful. And of course, when I do the job as I do, my objective is to make this world a better place, bringing artistic productions, educational productions, etc. So briefly, I work with producers from any country. They give me the rights on documentaries, performances, fiction series, kids programs, and formats, and I sell them worldwide. Personally, 75% of my job is to sell them to TV broadcasters, and 25% is related to streamers, in-flight, and the educational market. My way of working is very standard. If you have questions on international distribution at the end of this session, I will be happy to answer, and we could also organize another session if you think that international distribution is important for you. So today we decided to focus on the French animation sector because it's a very important partner for Italian animation producers. We're gonna discuss the audiovisual part of the sector and also the cinema side. Many producers are busy, like historically, some producers were specialized in cinema, others were specialized in the audiovisual side, but nowadays, most producers are working on both sides, so we found it more interesting to cover both aspects. Yes, so French animation, as I said, is very important for Italians. Maybe you will understand during this presentation why. That's why first, I will spend most of the time today presenting you the French animation industry itself. And I will finish with the performance of French animation outside of France, and then we will have time for questions. I think if you want to, and you will see that there is a need to set up international production and also to work with international distributors like me at an early stage when you work on animation. French partners are key, maybe more important even than British producers, and more important than any other nationality. And this is also something you're gonna discover during my presentation. Okay, so let's start. I think we are all warm to beginning entering the French audiovisual animation sector. So I start with the TV side of the business. Let's say that audiovisual means TV and streamers side of the business. So at the moment, the international market is very tough, but still the French production animation industry is managing. We are dealing with it. We are fighting. We are quite strong. We cannot be too proud because it's challenging and difficult, but let's say we manage. We produce in France about 300 hours animation, and 56. There are approximately 56 French animation producers. So I don't know if it's for you Italians, it's a lot or not, but probably it's a lot in Europe. French audiovisual animation. I hope it's not too small on your screen. On the left side, you see that there are growing producers production. So there is a growing producers production financing share, 23.7% approximately. And be careful, it includes tax credits. Sometimes the CNC includes tax credits in the producer's share, sometimes not. I'm sorry for that. But in this one, it is included. There is a declining financing share of TV broadcasters. So 22.2% is the share of broadcasters. And there is an increase of license fee paid by TV broadcasters at project stage. But unfortunately, it's not compensating the rise of production costs. So even though broadcasters are giving more money for animation, as the production costs are also growing, it's still not enough.
Excuse me, Pauline, just a question. Is it about which year? I mean, this data.
Sorry, I wrote it here, slide 4.
Sorry, I didn't.
Most of the figures will be based on last year because we are still in 24. So we still don't have the 24 figures. So that's why almost all the figures will be based on 2023. Sometimes when I will give an average, it will cover the 10 last years, but I will try to be as precise as possible. But please interrupt me if it's not clear. And sometimes, even though the CNC has an amazing study department, because most of the figures I will give you are based on the CNC statistics. They have probably the best study department in Europe. But sometimes the way they present it is not always clear, but I try to be as clear as possible. The problem are the definitions. That's why I will try to say audiovisual for TV and streamers and cinema for feature-length works. But again, if it's not clear, please interrupt me. Okay, so I go back to this one. French audiovisual animation. So again, I start, and sometimes I will mix, but now I talk about the TV side of the business, TV and streamers side of the business. So France Télévisions, which is the French public broadcaster, is the first French TV. Be careful because there is a difference between the broadcasters giving money at project stage and the one broadcasting animation. So now I'm talking about the investment money. France Télévisions is the first French TV broadcaster for animation in terms of volume commissioned. They give money to 152 hours per year at project stage. 56 0.4% of total French audiovisual animation. So France Télévisions is number one for French producers in terms of production money. Since January 2023, the foreign streamers are eligible to give producers access to French national subsidies. So since last year, if you're a French producer, you can get either France Télévisions or another French broadcasters or any other streamers, including Disney+, Prime Video, Netflix, etc. And you can be eligible to get public money, but none of them have commissioned French animation yet. It's very interesting. So French producers still rely a lot on France Télévisions and on other French broadcasters and not yet on other streamers. And we will see later, even though the streamers have a lot of animation in their catalogs. 85% of French audiovisual animation is co-financed by international partners. 23.5% of audiovisual animation budgets are covered by international partners, and no other genres are as much co-financed by international partners. So basically in France, even though the France animation sector is probably number one, let's say, with UK, but now, as you know, UK is outside of Creative Europe Media, so that's why UK is very strong, but still France is number one within the European Union. That's why it's important to understand the French market for Italian animation producers. French producers need international partners, and Italians, of course, are priority for French producers. Is it clear, Mariana? Yes?
Yeah, I think so, but if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. I'll say to my colleague.
So again, 23.5% of audiovisual animation budgets are covered by international partners. It's a lot. French producers also provide a significant number of services. You are familiar with tax credits, so now I'm talking about that. 54 animation works benefiting from the international tax credit generated expenditure in France. We are talking about 10 cinema works and 44 audiovisual programs. Expenditure in France reached a record, so last year, compared, so you see the figures, almost 200 million euro compared to, let's say, 25 in about 20 years ago, to make it simple. The majority of these projects come from North America. 69% over the period, for last years, making this a business exposed to the international context. So imagine a lot of money. I mean, the French producers made a lot of money related to North American producers. Since 2022, number of orders for animation programs has fallen in North America, in particular from streamers. So Netflix and Disney, they stopped commissioning projects to American producers, almost minus 50% last year. So which meant less services requested from French producers. So it's a big loss for French producers. So French producers benefited it over the last years, but now they are really challenged. And today, Cyber Group is one of the biggest French animation producers, and I think today it was announced that they might go bankrupt. They are under a certain procedure, so we hope they will survive. But you know, they were like one of the most successful French company, and they are in big trouble. So you can be, you could be the biggest French studio yesterday, and today it could be potentially the end for you. So it's quite challenging. Let's talk about French animation film production for cinema, which is seeing a record. So very good results for French animation. So to summarize, like it's very complex. It's never black or white. It's very challenging. But at the moment, French animation movies are very successful. In 2023, 18 animated films were produced. So it was a record because we had 13 films in 22. 12 are French, including 500% French, and 13, so last year, were international co-productions, including 6 minority French co-productions. So again, you can see that on one hand, French animation movies are very successful worldwide, but we are very dependent on our international partners. And again, Italy is a very, very important potential partner for French producers. French animation movies tend to depend on international financing. So one French animation film costs twice as much as a live action feature film. And now it's an average. So when I give an average, I'm talking about the last 10 years. So when you're a French producer, you are working on a live action film, let's say an average budget is going to be 5 million euro. And at the moment, the French producers are really fighting. And when they get 4 million euros for a live action movie, they are already extremely happy. But when you work on a French animated movie, your average budget is going to be twice higher, 10 million. So it's very, very challenging for French producers. So let's look at the financing structure of a French animation movie. 23.6% is the share of the French producer. And it's higher than for any other genre. For all, like if you take all genres, the share of the French producer would be, let's say, 15%. So for animation, it's much higher. The share of French TV broadcasters in a normal average financing structure in France is 14% versus 31.3% for all genres included, including animation. So an average would be 30%, and for animation, it's much less. It's 40%. And then you get 23% public money. The way the CNC is calculating it, they include national money, regional money. They also include European money. And when they talk about that, tax credit is in this part. And then there are other sources, Sofica, which are kind of guarantee funds, and other funds.
Sorry, so Pauline, just
yes.
a question. So this public money is the same for all genres?
So now I am explaining what is an average financing structure of an animation French movie. Okay. So if you're a French producer, you produce an animation French movie, you will get an average, a normal, let's say, share from public money will be 23%, okay? Public money. What is the part of international money in a normal financing structure? 16.9% will be international co-production money. So you can see that in a normal financing structure, international money is more than the TV broadcaster, French TV broadcaster share. And if you take all kinds of movie, animation, live action, documentaries, and all genres, international money is only less than 10%. So for like any movie, less than 10% international money. For animation, almost 17% international co-production money. And the pre-buys, like the money that my company can bring to French producers, it's let's say 8.8%, and which is more than for any other and for if you take all genres, my company, we would bring an average of 5.6% pre-buys from TV broadcasters outside of France. So you see that for animation, working strongly with international partners, with other co-producers abroad, or with international sales companies like mine is key. We have to build a strong team. We have to work closely together. We cannot face too many problems. We need healthy working relationship. It's key. If a French producer doesn't have that, he has no chance. Let's continue. Successful theatrical release of animation in France. So now I'm talking about the French market. In French cinemas, animated films, whatever their nationality, reached an all-time high, 59 in 23, and there were 52 the year before. So French films are very high. There were 14 French animated films released in France last year. Non-French European films, 13, which is also quite high, because there were only 9 the year before. So in the non-French European films, some probably were Italians. And if you take non-European plus non-American films, it was also rising, particularly for Japanese films. So you had 13 movies released in France last year, which were not European and not American. It's really a lot. And a normal number of American movies is 12, and it was last year it was normal, and it is a common figure in France to have about 12 American animated movies released per year. So if you look at the number of admissions in France, you can see the graph. What is important is that finally last year we had the same number of admissions in theaters than before COVID. So finally, the cinema market for animation movies recovered last year from COVID crisis. So it's a good, this is a very, very good thing. Any comment on that, Mayana? No? I continue. I'm included 2 examples, a successful theatrical release of animation in France. So let's talk about Super Mario Bros. The film by French company Illumination Studio Paris, which got the most admissions in French cinemas last year. So it was 7.25 million admissions. And the top French animated film, Miraculous le film, ranked number 6 in the animated film charts in France last year, and it was 1.65 million admissions. So you can see that even for a French movie like Miraculous, it was only number 6. So even for strong French animation movies, the competition on the French market is very high. Regarding the TV broadcast market for animation in France, it was stable last year. There were 10,333 hours broadcast, 93% audiovisual animation works, and almost 7% cinema animation works broadcast on TV. So of course we know TV broadcasters, they show almost only series and some specials, but 7% of what they broadcast are animation movie works. So animation represents 6.2% of all programs broadcast. So it's a very small, if you look at the production costs, animation costs a lot compared to other works, but it is only 6% of what people watch on TV in France. And animation represents 1.4% of all programs used on TV in France. Kids, as we know, are the main target audience of animation. So if you take the target group 4 to 10, it represents almost less than 20%. And if you take the target group 4 to 15-year-old, it is less than 15%. Do I continue? It's a lot of figures to digest. But until now, I think there is nothing very surprising. The figures represent what we believe the market is. I think we don't have any big discovery here. I don't know if you know that, but before we said that France Télévisions is key to produce animation audiovisual works in France. But Gulli, which is a private television which belongs to the M6 group, is the first French TV broadcaster in terms of hours broadcast and in terms of audience. 64% of the audience of animation is on Gulli. Best audience of audiovisual program on French TV is, I know only the French title, Paw Patrol, La Patte Patrouille. And Gulli,
it's the same in Italy, Paw Patrol.
And Gulli is also the French TV station showing the most animated movies. Gulli broadcast last year 55 animation movies for a total of 87. The best audience of cinema animated movies on French TV was Encanto, the Fantastic Madrigal Family. Okay, so let's continue. French audiovisual animation is the most watched on TV, 46.8% of market share on French television. So the French people, they watch a lot of, the French viewers watch a lot of French content on TV. The breakdown of animation consumption on French TV by nationality is what you see. So basically what the dark green on the left is French, then lighter is American, then it is European, non-French European. So basically the Italian productions are in this share, and completely on the right, very light, are other nationalities. And of course, in those other nationalities, you've got the Japanese productions and the British ones. So you can see that actually on the right side, the shares are bigger than the European non-French programs, and it's because the Japanese, the British, and the Canadian productions are very strong. Okay, let's continue. Streamers in France. It's very interesting and a little bit depressing. So the main streamers in France, in terms of offer, in terms of quantity of titles offered, are first Crunchyroll, second Netflix, third Prime Video, and fourth ADN in terms of quantity. But the main offers are from USA and Japan. So in France, and if you can see, Disney Plus is not in this list. So Disney Plus in France is still very small. And the graph on the right side is the number of available animation episodes. So you can see that there is more and more animation proposed. But most of the titles are coming from the USA and Japan. So the streamers, if you remember, they don't give money for the moment to produce. They don't give money to French producers for the moment. Of course, it's going to change, but they are still not helping with production.
Excuse me, Pauline, but don't you
The
have, sorry, don't you have a law that obliged them to invest at least 20 and something percent on French
But it's only
production?
the problem is it's only the beginning. So if you remember, the French producers, they depend a lot on American producers, like through services. But because the American producers have less commission programs from Disney Plus and Netflix, they stopped working with French producers on the service side. The streamers, they still don't put money on French animation. It's gonna change. We will see that in the figures next year. But for the moment, you know, it's still very new. But the French market is we've got this high competition. Like the French consumers are still watching almost half of what the French audience is watching is still French, almost. But now the offer of American and Japanese animation is exploding on the French market through streamers. So the French market is really challenged a lot at the moment. Okay, so let's continue. French animation. So let's talk about the French animation production companies in France. And you will see that without the huge support of French authorities, the French production companies wouldn't be what they are and who they are. So in France, we've got 192 companies, including 29 big ones. Famous examples are Xilam, Micros Image, and Cyber Group Studio, which is facing big problems, as I just said today. There are growing ones, Miam and Fortiche. But the main reason why we've got those strong companies is because French animation is a priority for the French authorities, and there are a lot of public hedge funds who are giving money to French animation producers. A big trend is to like the French authorities, they want that not all studios are located in Paris. So there are a lot of subsidies. I don't know if subsidies is the right term in this case, but incentives, sorry. There are a lot of incentives to have more French production companies in regions. So I think that can be an opportunity also for some Italians. Maybe this is something we can discuss during the Q&A, but in the future, regional French studios are going to become stronger than now. So French animation, it's not only Paris. Okay, let's continue. There is a record number of working women in the sector. So in France, we've got 10,000 employees working in the animation industry, and 42.5% are women now. We are very happy of that. There is a growing number. Usually when you look at the figures in Europe, France is the country with the highest figures for women. So I hope that you also have a lot of women in Italy. But yeah, this is very positive. And I'm not going to discuss that today, like inclusion, but of course, our content is more and more inclusive, and the fact that we have more and more women helps having a more inclusive content. Performance of French animation on the international market. So without the international market, the French animation industry wouldn't be what it is. So first, animated films are successful not only in cinemas in France, but also outside of France. Last year, a total of 11 million tickets were sold for 67 French animated films. Movies with the most admissions outside of France were Miraculous, le film. So as you remember, it was number 6 on the French market, and it was the first French movie outside of France with 7.15 million admissions outside of France. And the second one was Patty et la colère de Poséidon with 1.76 million admissions outside of France. French animated films on TV outside of France. So last year, 68 French animated films were available on TV in 14 countries. And French animated films on SVOD outside of France. Last year, 92 French animated movies were available on SVOD platforms outside of France. What is interesting is that there are the French animation movies on SVOD platforms are on more territories than the French movies released in cinemas. So maybe we make less money on SVOD platforms, but we are in more territories. So more territories doesn't mean and more SVOD doesn't mean more revenues. So definitely the SVOD are not bringing as much money as the TV station and as the cinema yet. So very important, our biggest competitors for the French animation producers are American, Japanese, British, and Canadians. We observed a decrease of sales of French animation audiovisual works worldwide last year. So now I'm really talking about TV animation productions. So less sales last year. For the first time since 1999, animation is not the leading French export genre. I've been doing international sales for the last 16 years. And since I started, animation was always, like French animation was always number one. It was always what French companies were selling the most outside of France. And for the first time, fiction and especially fiction series are now the genre number one sold outside of France. Animation represents 26.8% of world sales, and now fiction represents 37.6%. And for example, the two French series which are the most sold outside of France are Le Bureau des légendes and HPI, which is a series about hospitals. But French audiovisual animation is number 4 on SVOD worldwide, and French audiovisual animation is number 2 on European TV. So yeah, French animation series is really performing well on European TV. So even though we are selling less than before, we are still number 2. Decrease of French animation sales abroad. So animation sales continue to decline. There is a drop in sales in North America, minus 70% last year. Decline in global rights. Global rights mean when you sell international rights, so everywhere. So for the 3rd year in a row, we sell less international rights. So it's a genre which is really impacted a lot by the slump in content spend. High concentration of sales in Western Europe in 23, 43.4%. This is nothing new. All French programs are sold, first of all, in Europe. and especially in Western Europe. So there is a growing importance of established IPs. Big French brands are making it better than new IPs, new not established brands. And there is a lower concentration among the top 5 export companies. So you can see in the graph the evolution of animation sales. Okay, and the final information is very strong visibility of French animation, high market share in European countries, from 10% in the UK to 29% in Italy. So French animation productions, where they are the most successful ever, it is in Italy. So I don't know if you were aware of that. So if the Italian audience likes or enjoys the French productions, I think it's also a good basis to establishing co-productions between France and Italy, because if we have common taste, it's a good way to work together. So my conclusion is about opportunities. In between France and Italy, there is what is called a mini traité. France and Italy have a national public bodies, like in Italy I think it's called MIBACT, and in France CNC. They have a common budget to give money to Italian French co-productions at development stage and also at production stage. France has only this scheme also with Germany. So definitely Italy and Germany are high priority for France. And there is a famous alliance between France Télévisions and l'ARAI. l'ARAI and France Télévisions, they want to co-produce. So they have a very active, they have, for them, it's high priority to co-produce together. So it makes a second good opportunity. And I think that the presentation today proved why co-producing between France and Italy could or should be high priority for you. Of course, I didn't talk about Creative Europe Media, but definitely Creative Europe Media is also a great opportunity at development stage and also at production stage to co-produce together. So it's a good way to start our Q&A and launch the discussion.
Thank you, Pauline. I just want to add something because I forgot to tell you when we talk a little bit on the phone, but just we can add another opportunity for our region in your last slide, as Emilia-Romagna region as a starting point for a co-production agreement. Let's say it's not a proper co-production agreement, it's just a first let's say light agreement among our region and Nouvelle-Aquitaine region, because we have a partnership among the two regions since a long time ago, but in all the sectors, but now all the productive sectors, let's say, but now we are trying to build a stronger agreement also in the audiovisual and cinema sector. So
thank you for mentioning that, because actually I wanted to mention it. This region is the most open French region to international co-production, especially at development stage. You don't necessarily need to have a strong international co-production in place. You can really, I think, applying for development money at l'Aquitaine, Nouvelle-Aquitaine region is a good way to test a relationship. You can try to get development money. start working on the script and on different development activities. And then if it works well, you can develop it further, like deepen your production. But definitely, this is a fantastic opportunity, Nouvelle-Aquitaine.
Yeah, and in fact, thank you, Pauline. And in fact, we have already a relationship as association and Emilia-Romagna Film Commission with ALCA, which is an agency dealing with books, cinema, and audiovisual. So just wanted to share this opportunity and seize this opportunity to spread the news, even if we already had this opportunity also during our Friday conference meeting in a festival in Bologna. But just to repetita juvent.
Yeah, but La Nouvelle-Aquitaine, the team is very active and they travel a lot. They go to a lot of international events. So if you go to Berlinale, to a lot of events, you can set up a physical meeting with them and they are gonna help you a lot. They can give you the list of producers in their region. They can explain you their guidelines, their eligibility criteria, their selection criteria. They are very accessible. They are helping a lot. Creative Europe Media, they also have a service that it is not always known. You all know the regional and national desks of the media, the so-called media desk. So the Creative Europe Media Representation Desk in Italy at national and regional level. But they are also supposed to help you identifying potential co-producers. It was not the case a couple of years ago, but now if you ask them, please, could you help me identifying a French co-producer, they are supposed to help you.
Ah, this is great. I didn't know that about
it
creative
is
media.
a new service they offer since the last program. So I think they started now 2.5 years ago. Yeah, something like that. So now you can really ask them. And you can also contact the media desk in Paris. For example, Margot Lacoste, she's amazing. She's a very professional person. There is also Céline. I mean, there are other colleagues. They also travel a lot. For example, Margot is going to Cerimania in March. So you can also set up physical meetings with them and ask them to help. The Creative Europe Media umbrella is also more and more active and organize speed dating at I mean, they don't do that at now. Okay, MIP TV is cancelled, and the Creative Europe Media will not go to MIP London, and at MIPCOM they don't do it, but at Cerimania and at MIFA, the Creative Europe Media Stand, which is called the Media Stand, they organize speed dating during European producers. So if you go to the European umbrella, you can also meet European producers to see if you could co-produce.
And moreover, in Nouvelle-Aquitaine, we have also Cartoon Movie as an event that is really interesting for networking, B2B, and co-production, of course, of feature films.
If you take the smaller animation events, definitely cartoon, I mean, all the cartoon events, there is Cartoon Movie and there are other events. It's probably the small animation event where there is the highest presence of Italians and French. Like France Télévisions and La Rai are there, and a lot of French and Italian producers are there. If you take small similar events such as APD in Stuttgart, Young Horizon in Warsaw, CineKid in the Netherlands, and CIAA, I forgot, in Pilsen, you have the presence of Italians and French are not as high. But maybe there are questions coming from the floor.
The floor is the audience is very shy. Do you have any question? There's no banal question. No banal question exists. Any question is valid. You can ask whatever you want about French animation. And
I don't know about Italy, but the French media desk has a great newsletter. So I don't know if the Italian media desk has also a newsletter, but if they do, and if you didn't subscribe yet, I would subscribe, because definitely it's one of the most important newsletter to be aware of anything which can help co-producing. Maybe talking about co-production, we talked about the mini traité, we talked about Nouvelle-Aquitaine, but regarding Creative Europe Media, definitely, you know, it's based on, there is a pointing system in order to get co-development money or TV and online, so development money or production money, you need to get a minimum of 70 points, maximum 100, but actually getting 100 is impossible. So you need to fight for each single point. And the localization of your co-producer is going to be key to get the point. And definitely having a French-Italian co-production is already a guarantee of having a lot of points. A way to secure also other point is to work with women. Imagine if you have the choice between you're an Italian producer, you want to work together with a French production company. If you don't know which one to take, and if there's one with a lot of women working in it, then you can get points because you will be working with women. So don't forget that, and also the sustainability criteria is also a good way of getting points. My company is French German actually, and I'm a woman, so you can get points through my company. Regarding my company, I don't work on the cinema side. I only work on the audiovisual side. Like I can be a partner for TV projects, but not for movie projects.
I have a question. If you don't have, I can ask. Now, each year there are events in Italy in which it's possible, also at MIFA, I must admit, in which, for example, Rai Kids, which is our Italian broadcaster, presents the catalog of the year and the main topics they would like to address with new productions and co-production for the future. So I was wondering if you can tell us some links, some references to study more about the French broadcasters, so that when we go to a possible French co-producer, we know if our idea and our content can match with your market.
It's a very good point. There are some studies for us, for international distributors. We know what in terms of topics, we know where go the highest expectations. You know, we know those topics work well, those topics work well, blah, blah, blah. But for the French market, there are not studies because there are not that many players. So the people who know the best about the trends, because the trends are changing, are the French producers. The French producers, they meet the French broadcasters all the time. So they are the one knowing the best. So I think that's why it's important to choose the right French co-producer, because your co-producer is supposed to know. International distributors, we know about the international market, but definitely the one knowing the best will be your French co-producer, because, you know, those trends change from time to time, and a French producer is going to be aware of all those trends even before they are published or before. They are
Yeah.
official.
Okay, I see.
But definitely everyday like everyday life are always the topics number one. And then I think it's about differentiating yourself, not doing the same as what the competitors are doing. I think a common mistake is to look at the studies. Oh, they want this, so you're going to copy paste what works the most. And I think it's the opposite. You need to bring something new and to develop a strong new IP. If you compete and you bring, like, imagine if you are the third company proposing the same thing, you're gonna fail because there will be always someone stronger than you. So, like, proposing something different is always the best, and definitely inclusivity is key. And I think that inclusive, we think of women and maybe Black people and maybe LGBT, but I think inclusivity has more, there are new frontiers. Inclusivity, it can be accents, it can be a lot of different things. So we need to explore differences as much as we can. And even if you talk about women, which is like, okay, we know, equality between men and women is priority. I think that even if we know it, we still, and even if we don't want it, we still see girls wearing a pink dress and a boy wearing a blue shirt. And even if we are aware of inclusivity, I think it's a daily fight
against bias, because this is a knowledge bias, we call it bias
cognitive. And I think our awareness is changing every day. Like, what we found acceptable 6 months ago is not acceptable anymore. And animation takes a lot of time to produce. So we need to think ahead of the new trend. So we need to be more inclusive than the most inclusive people.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we have two questions. Yes. Sorry
No,
for
please.
You. One, it's well, you partially answered, because one asked if you also distribute young adults and adults animations in cinemas in France, but you don't distribute feature films. You don't distribute in cinemas.
At the moment, yes.
At the moment,
for the time being.
But I was wondering, you don't distribute in cinema, but if you have a feature film for platform and TV, do you distribute?
It's a tricky question. Maybe this is a good conclusion for a session. Maybe those kind of questions would need more time. Like audiovisual international distribution, like when you have a movie, if you want to bring a movie to the international market, you need a completely different strategy. You need to do some lobbying to get your movie selected at prestigious festivals, and then you're going to organize the PR and marketing work around those selections. And first you sell the movie territory by territory to national distributors for a few territories. As you could see today, an average is going to be 15 territories. And then outside of those territories, the content is going to be available. So it's a completely different strategy. When you work on animation series, you don't have this festival strategy. You just you sell wherever you can sell. Of course, there are sales you try to do first and other sales that you do second. But basically, I think this should be, I would need enough time to explain it, but it's a bit more complex than that.
But I can send you the complete question. This girl introduced herself, And so I can send you the complete question, and you can write each other because you left the
Why
email.
not?
So.
But if you, as you could hear today, an animation movie can have a lot of success in cinemas
France.
outside of your country, and you can earn a lot of money. So I think that your priority, if you're an Italian animation producer, you are producing a movie or you produced a movie, plan A for you is an international distribution company specialized in the cinema. My company, I will always be plan B. Always.
Okay.
Like if for some reason you couldn't find an international distribution company working for cinema, then I can be plan B. But plan A is always another type of company, because you can really make much more money than the kind of revenues I could bring you.
Thank you.
Of course, people can always contact me, and we can have one-on-one discussions.
Thank you. And we have a last question. It could require for a long answer, but you can just give us a final, let's say, comment, because it's an interesting question by Jonah. May I ask you if you can spend some more words about the reasons that brought to this challenging time of the industry? It's a big question, let's say.
Can you be more precise?
I think it refers to the fact that you showed us figures that are going down. I mean, negative figures, and I think it's about.
Are you talking about the internationally or nationally?
I don't know, because it's not me.
I'm happy to answer a
Internationally or
question.
nationally?
No, I'm happy to answer any
question
question,
is,
but yes.
the reason that brought to this challenging time of the industry, I think it's internationally, but I'm not sure.
No, because I mean, there are things which are going extremely well. Like if you take French animation in France, French animated movies in France and French animated movies outside of France, there is no crisis. It's like, wow, it's absolutely fantastic. If you take the international sales of audiovisual French animation, it's not the genre number one, not because the French animation series are bad, but because French fiction series are doing better. But still, we have big competitors. But actually, we are doing okay. I don't see you anymore, Mariana. So I kind of disagree with the question, because again, French animation movies are doing extremely well internally and externally. So I disagree with the question. And if we talk about a French audiovisual animation, we are doing well internally. I mean, what is not that good is that the license fee of public broadcasters is not enough. I think that the quality, the French producers, in order to compete internationally, they have to increase the quality of the productions, and that's why it costs more. And the French broadcasters, they give more money, but not enough to cover the production costs. So that, of course, that's a problem. So we need, the French audiovisual animations are working very well in France, but still French broadcasters should give more money, especially France Télévisions. But we have a big problem. I mean, Gulli should give more money, and France Télévisions should give more money. And outside of France, the French audiovisual animation, we are still doing well. The French series are doing even better, but we are still doing well. But we need to be careful because we are going to be challenged in the future. And personally, this is not what I presented today, but I see big competition coming from Latin America and Asia, and this is going to be new. And in Europe, we are still producing a lot of 2D animation, but in Latin America and in Asia, they are investing a lot in 3D animation, and I see it as a threat. So for the moment, we are doing extremely well, or we are still doing well, but we have big challenges in front of us, and that's why we need to be strong. And that's why I think that working together between Italians and French people, I think it should be a good and positive opportunity. We have to work together to be strong and to resist.
Yeah,
It's
you're
really
right.
the question, definitely. But it's a way of finishing with a positive note. And I hope to inspire people and to encourage to work together. And maybe my last advice will be that international co-production, it's not about working once on one production. I think that when you enter into a relationship with another production company, your objective, you should have a long-term objective. And it's not only true for the animation market, but I think that more generally, our future in Europe is to work together more. And this is the only way for us to make it in the future. Internationally, we will have to work together, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah,
I cannot
that's
wait.
true. Thank you. This is a very positive ending of our conversation.
I will have to learn Italian.
I was thinking about learning French because it's more useful.
Never
abroad.
say never. I will have to learn Italian, and you will learn French, and it's going to be so much fun.
Okay. Thank you, Pauline. For me, it was a great, great conversation, a great keynote speech. And thank you to the audience and to my colleagues. And thank you, Federica. And okay, good night. Good evening.
Thank you.
Maria.
Grazie
Bye
mille.
bye.
Ciao.
Bye bye. Ciao.
Buonanotte.
Ciao. Buonanotte.